Welcome back to Let's Talk Race in Marlin. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. Today, we're going to talk about two topics. We're going to conjoin two topics. We got the TYLA topic. We all understand that TYLA has been under some heat about whether or not she is a black person or not. So originally, the first situation that has, black America on the, or even globally, we kind of look on her sideways a little bit is when she I think she was on some interview. I actually went to go search for that interview. She took it down. Now, this was a couple of weeks ago, but she took it down. This is, I just thought that was, of course, well, it's her team doing what they should do. But the original interview where she kind of says, "I'm not black, I'm colored." So she takes that interview down. Then, of course, Charlemagne, being the journalist he is, he's going to make sure that he follows up on that question. Are you black? Are you whatever? She turns around. I think you've all seen it before. I'll put up on the screen really quickly. She turns around and she's not having it. She's not answering it. She lets that one go. She then takes to Instagram later that week, it could have been, because she saw that Black America were not going to let this one slide, and she makes sure to clarify. I don't have it to hand right now, but on to the effect of, guys, I've always been black, something, I've whatever. Don't even know. I can't even remember. But I'll put up on the screen for you guys to see it. I don't have it handy right now. So there's been a journey about who she is, right? What is she? And then now we have the Usher situation where she was at what it could have been an award show or an Usher show. Usher, I think, played one of her songs knowing she was in the crowd, tried to dance with her in a provocative manner. She wasn't really into it. Now some are divided. Some are saying she should have the right to. Some are saying it shows that she thinks that she's even too big for Usher. I want to have my say on this. Now, I've been really trying to be careful that I don't get to talking too much about, I think she's 22, maybe even younger, girl, a 22-year-old girl. I don't want to start making declarations about her character and who she is and all this kind of stuff, because I just feel like we need to be a little bit more lighthearted on the sister. So I've been trying to be careful, and I think that's the reason I never even spoke about the original situation regarding is she black or is she not black. But here it comes again, and now I actually found to tie this topic with something that's been happening at the moment, which is James and Ahmad. I'm not sure. It's the British podcasters who have been in hot water about what they have said. Fuhad, I think it was called. Yes, James and Fuhad, it could have been. Yes, so basically it's called, shits and giggles. I don't like using swear words on this podcast, but it's the name of the podcast. So they've been in some hot water regarding whether or not, they spoke about black women in a way. They were on a different podcast with this American guy. I don't even know his name. I'll put a picture of him on the screen. He is a bit of a red flag, but, whatever. I guess it's an opportunity, to broaden their, audience, and they get on the show, right? He starts to make jokes about black women, starts to make comments about black women, and they laugh along. They don't get out of the situation. They don't, whatever. That tied with another podcast episode they did in America also, where they were saying Atlanta women are not that beautiful. Of course, they're referring to black women in Atlanta, and they lost it, right? Now, just internet was just, losing it about just their, I guess their consciousness as black people. Now that I have set the foundation of this episode, I want to tell you how I'm going to conjoin these two topics. And really what I'm here to talk about today is a topic that I've been really trying to stress. And I really do believe that we're in a very special time. The power of the internet has enabled us as African people in the diaspora globally to unite and to bring peace together so many broken, disjointed pieces that enabled us to be conquered for all these many years. I think it would be very understandable if black people were just this small demographic of people who were under siege, or, I guess if you want to say, unable to overcome. I don't know whatever position you would deem the black community to be in. I think if it was this small, like indigenous community, and you don't understand it, right? It'd be like, okay, they were colonized and captured a long time ago, and yeah, they're a small community. It's been hard for them to kind of get back on their feet. They don't really have the horsepower to do so. But I think the paradox, or should I say maybe the oxymoron, is that it's this mighty, quite like the Israelites, right? Why I do believe we are Israelites. This large, very great community of people who are scattered around the world, although they can't seem as a community, maybe some individuals, as a community, there seems to be this elephant in the room of really their incompetence, which then begs the question, which leaves us a lot of time, which enables, I guess, the white supremacists to then say, you see, this is why you were colonized. This is why, it was never really me who did it to you. It was you who did it yourself. And the evidence of that is that even where we are today, you haven't been able to prove your greatness in yourself because you couldn't even pick yourself off of the floor. Look at who you are. And it's a terrible thing, because then we internalize that maybe yes, there can be a good few handpicks out of a black community, but maybe at heart, incompetence or inferiority is at the core of the African that needs to be civilized and upgraded or advanced in order to be properly functioning in this world, Western world or whatever it may be. But now that we have this opportunity, I believe the most powerful opportunity, which is the power of the internet, to conjoin our stories and begin to understand and connect the dots of like what went wrong with us as a community, where did it go wrong, where have we failed to quote unquote get back on our feet, and then of course we're led to the truths about what did independence really look like. Oh, South Africans, are you guys telling us that the disparity of wealth is still the same amount are in the same people who had reinforced apartheid, and then you're having these different conversations, and we're empowering each other. America are telling us their experience, and then the African diaspora, which it would be the European Africans and Negropeans, would find themselves telling their own story, which I'd be one of those children. And the African European story is very particular as well, because it is the story of really African children who are now just born in Europe, right? Who have just parents migrated, born to Europe. So really, if you ask yourself, what flaws are living in Africa that you would say are the flaws that are holding Africa back from its development? Well, you could find that understanding also within Europe, because those are the parents who were born in Africa, raised in Africa, lived in Africa, and then mid their lives and halfway through their lives decided to go and migrate to Europe. So a lot of what we're seeing in us as the diaspora children, European kids, is a reflection of what you can say what is wrong with Africa. And what I have found what is wrong with Africa is, whilst the Americans were fortunate enough to be in proximity with their adversary, this would constantly remind them what type of mentality and mindset it would take to rehabilitate a people who have come out of captivity, who have come out of physical captivity and are yet to be freed out of mental captivity. Shout out to Bob Marley, Emancipate Yourself from Mental Slavery. You know, he sang these songs, right? But this was real work that had to be done. A lot of Africans thought the day that we signed the paper, my mother has this in her book, I'll put up on the screen, the day we signed the paper for independence was the day that all of a sudden things would change. There was so much work to do, considering the fact that the independence that they gave was not a genuine in the first place. But never mind what was on the paper. In the minds of the African, what had been engraved and implanted in the African of all these, during all these generations of captivity. What belief of himself was being engraved? Stick with me if you came for TYLA. Don't worry, you're going to get a lesson today. Stick with me if you came for the beef that's going on in the UK. Don't worry, you stick with me today. I got something good for you here. So what was engraved in the African? What was inhaled? What sank into the psyche of the African that destroyed him? And I believe you are seeing that today as we're living. And this is what I do. This is what I study. You are seeing that today. And one of the major mistakes that we made as the children of Africa was the African that was giving the imperialist the most trouble, the biggest trouble, the European, whatever you like to call them, the biggest and most trouble, white supremacy, was the African American. Because that proximity reminded him that his adversary would like for him to forget and to downplay. Whereas when the colonizer colonized Africa and then left, there was some Stockholm syndrome still left sitting within Africa, which is what you saw, this mass migration, mass emigrating to West, that battered woman syndrome, going back to the very place that you had just been, the very man and very people you've just been abused by. And there's this word that Africans cried, were devastated when colonization was coming to an end. Till this day, there's arguments whether or not it was the right thing for Africa or not. And even brilliant, timely for this conversation, South Africans find themselves slightly boasting on other Africans that, had you been like us and held on, had you been special enough to be chosen by the oppressor, that the oppressor found it, found your home somewhere, he said, listen, this is a place I need to pack my bags here and settle here. And it almost seems, if you're able to diagnose and able to analyze the mind of the South African, and a lot of times it's this pride that don't try and bring any sort of division between us and the relationship we have here with our oppressor, regardless if it is a negative one. Don't question it. We're proud that despite the development that happened here, despite it not really benefiting us as much as it may benefit some of us, but at least, at least we get to take pride in something that we are second-hand owners. I don't know what you call South Africa's setup, but all I know is that the wealth is still sitting in the hands of the very people who took over the land. So what has changed? So there is this glorification of Africans that I've learned over time and this romanticizing the West, and how, I've had loved ones tell me how great the white man is and how stupid Africans are. We Africans, you'll find them speaking so much about how stupid Africans are and stupid Africans are. And then when I went to African Americans, I remember the day that I questioned my African American brother, and I said to him, where are you from in Africa? Again, my geography was terrible. Not even my geography was terrible. My history was terrible. I didn't really understand that. He didn't know. He was put on a ship and didn't know where he was really from. And I asked him, where are you from? And he seemed ashamed that he couldn't tell me what part of Africa he was from. And that was the first moment. And it continued on for the time I was in North America. But I began to realize these people are desperately wanting to belong and find their belonging in Africa. But then when I go back home to my Africans who have settled in Europe, there seems to be this false sense of pride in being African, but really deep down this embarrassment or this loathing of self. And it's just this superficial version of, okay, we like the music, we like our certain things, but yeah, the white man does it better than us. We know this. We know this, but yeah, it's nice to be. So what else can you do but accept yourself? That's all you can do, right? So can we really say the African accepts himself with a lot of pride, or he's got to take what he's been given? But really, if you read between the lines, there is this glorification of, we know the white man does it better than us. Right? Whereas the African American over time began to understand the effects that this adversary had on him, and over time blamed less himself for his dysfunction, understanding the hurdles they had to face and the hurdles they were put through. And those who are standing strong in their right mind, goodness, those are the chosen ones. But it's not a given that any human being should come out standing strong and tall under such conditions. Right? So check this out. Now we go back to TYLA. This is a special time, and I'm not going to spend time talking about a 22-year-old, because the African Americans are passing to us the information they have accumulated over time. And we spend so much time believing the narrative that the oppressor told us, because the African American was the pain on the backside of this person who pushed and pushed and pushed and fought and was relentless and passed to his children a spirit of relentlessness, which is why he demonizes the African as this unruly race. But that is the race that has been the forebearers, the leaders of every milestone, major milestone of black liberation globally, has been down to that fighter spirit of the African Americans. Everything we experience today in modern day in life, every luxury we experience, it's because the leaders of the free world, as they may call themselves, but African Americans have been there setting the standard, saying, oh, goodness me, are they letting black people into politics now? Okay, we got to catch up. The rest of the world, so we got to catch up. Or else then we're going to look like we're the ones who are not there. Okay, are they doing this? And we spend so much time saying America's the worst. I beg to differ. There are so many things that Americans are doing there in the culture, the way it's integrated. I would say we are yet to catch up. And this takes me to my next point when I talk about the boys, James and Fuhad, or whatever those two black brothers are called. I seen some girls, she said, which was really awesome. She said, what you're seeing with those two brothers is nothing special. This is your average black British boys. And that is the first thing that I noticed. When I moved to America and I lived there for some time, I realized these are a completely different breed of black people in comparison to the one that we're living here. We have, and I seen someone who tweeted, it was wonderful, put up on the screen. Here in Europe, we have we exude a desperation to proximity to whiteness. We have to be able to find acceptance in that society. Whereas African Americans built this society for themselves and identity out of the rejection. And that was better for them because now they can create this culture that the whole world bites off of, that the whole world plagiarizes in everything that they do, in the things that they say, everything, the genius of black culture, because they were unapologetically themselves. And they learned how not to assimilate, but to break the mold. And this is why they're often branded as this rebellious people. And although sometimes that may be true, but I think sometimes we are misjudging the trauma. Listen, black African trauma is extreme coonery. It is extreme assimilation. It is extreme, assimilation. Just be European, by all means. Someone calls you African, you offended. You offended. African American trauma is sometimes the rebelliousness, because they have a culture of rebelliousness that they created against the oppressive society. And then sometimes the people at the bottom boil over a little bit too much. And of course, there's the exceptions of people who also assimilate too. But the ones in the bottom, in the ghettos and the stuff that we see that they try to brand Americans as, that's the ones who kind of boil over, inherited the spirit of rebellion, which can be positive to some degree, but then weren't able to channel it in the right way. And what we are seeing now, brothers and sisters, is we are seeing a world in which we can learn from the African Americans. So when I go to TYLA, you have to understand this one thing, right? TYLA is South African. South Africans literally created black, colored, and white because they said, we've got to make a subgenre for black people. And even the colored people themselves said this. And I don't know whether TYLA understood that she meant this at the time or not. But the reason color was created was to make a separation and a distinction of a class above black people. And then you have African Americans, where this woman or this man can be damn near white. He mixed with blue eyes, maybe green eyes. Look at people like Malcolm X, right? We look at all type of people who be calling themselves black in America. But you know what they go off? They go off the fact that says, this is a brother or sister who would have been on the plantation with me, and there were no favorites. Maybe you might have been in the house, and one of us may have been on the field, but we black together. We struggle together. I may have some privileges above you, but we could. So we're learning the skills in which may enable them to accomplish so much as a unit. I be seeing videos and some women say, I'm a black woman. I'm like, oh, you're a black woman. I didn't know. I couldn't tell. But that's the togetherness that they got here. But they were successful enough in South Africa to create a tier that anybody who could escape is quite like in Haiti, right? And even the Dominican. It's this sense of like they want to escape from what it is to be, black Haitian. And if I can escape to like the tiers of like, okay, I'm not black, I'm Dominican, or they're going to take that advantage. So this is, again, when I talk about all the stories, we get to unite and connect the dots. Reminds you of that funny video of that guy on Pop the Balloon who said, I'm half black, half Mexican, and the guy just put his head down. We don't understand the power of these moments. These moments are telling us and explaining what we're connecting dots. Oh, okay, we don't do that. Like we're all in the one country. The power of the internet. And when we connect these dots, we create a new consciousness amongst ourselves that will be able to rehabilitate the black man once and for all. We no longer allow him to be manipulated by the very cunning system that's been created to keep him in the position in which the imperialists intended to keep him. So I'm not going to go off on TYLA like you would thought I have. But I like that we're fixing what's going on in South Africa. And TYLA's really, I don't say that. No, we don't do that here. We together. Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, leave that stuff there. Of course, you don't get some brothers like, and we've seen the Chidema situation as well. Oh, so that's what you're doing over there in South Africa? Oh, and wise people are going to say, oh, you kind of take us, being taken out of your environment and realizing, oh, yeah, this is weird. And the same thing's happening to the British boys. They're saying stuff out loud. They're realizing, oh, no, Americans don't play that. And now we're communicating to each other, setting new standards. Okay, my sisters over there in the U.S. wouldn't stand for this. We don't play. Now we don't play that. Why? Because we know these black women jokes. We know that they originated. And if you want to get your men to start respecting you and admire you, you start clamping down on these jokes. All right, cool. They apologize and we moving. A lot of people, I can see this. One girl left in the Shade Borough comment saying it's such a joke that they have to apologize about comedy. She looked mixed race. And she British too, so we already know what they can be like. You know, they can either be with us or they they're on the other side. And I'm just thinking, nah, this ain't a joke. It didn't come from a joke. It's maybe a fun and games for you being a mixed race woman, but you've never had to be a dark skinned sister, have you? Where those stereotypes were really being aimed at about being violent and just rough and masculine. All good to go, fun and games for you with your loose curls, sister. What about the ones with the tight, nappy curls who get branded and as masculine? And these brothers will learn their lesson, right? But it's in a fantastic time that we're in, brothers and sisters, where we're learning, we're registering, across the pond. And this is where I just want to take my time to say, one day we're going to pay our homage to African Americans. We've been taken from them for quite a minute. We listen to the music, take the culture, enjoy everything like that. But then we still have this insidious thing about their incompetence and stupidity. Because it was fed to us through the media. It was fed to us through, and we don't, even the stuff that we do see, maybe on Twitter or maybe on whatever, we don't register it as strong people who are soldiers that have fallen. You know, maybe casualties due to the trauma. But our trauma, like I told you, African, European trauma is top coonery. Worship of white man. You go to Africa right now, beauty in a white skin. You touch on Africa, they'll say, hey, ho, ho. Start singing and dancing. White man come off the plane. Go now. And although a lot of us won't have that same reaction here in Europe, the seed of that is here. That reverence. Right? That's why we assimilated it. That's why our parents formed us and shaped us in which direction to move. Whereas African Americans were shaping them, were sharpening their swords, even as small kids, telling them how to fight when they go into certain places. And that's when you build a culture of African Americans who fight and before they assimilate. So that's all I have to say for today, guys. I'm thankful. I'm grateful I was able to talk about the situation with TYLA, situation with these brothers, specifically TYLA, because I know she's a young lady. I think we need to take it easy on her. She's a young girl. She's having her moment. She's shining. She's got her #1 single now on her album. I can imagine being 22 and your dreams are coming true. And I'm hoping that she's going to take some things now and realize, okay, this is how the Elons and the apartheids were programming us to think here inside. Okay, I'm going to throw that out now. Thank God I learned something from my sisters in the U.S. and my brothers in the U.S. Okay, we're going to connect now our stories and the dots. And once we start to abolish and deconstruct, you know, the legacy of colonialism, I wonder what we can achieve and what we can accomplish globally. And to my brothers in the UK, we all make mistakes, brother. But we just hope you come into consciousness in this time and you begin to use the internet for its power. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.